Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Lucky Paper. My name is Andy. We're here with one more draft. For those of you that just watch the draft videos and not the gameplay videos, which I think is most of you based on the analytics numbers, you should know that we do play Paper Magic with all these games. I know the draft looks digital, but the games do end up being in paper. So you should check it out on the YouTube channel when those videos come out. And today we are drafting My Cube. I'm not streaming this draft because I am tryharding. This is going to be a draft that I plan on recording some matches and then playing the recordings back for a coaching session. And that coaching session will be uploaded to the YouTube channel, so check that out later on. But for those reasons, I'm tryharding a little bit and not streaming while I also do this. This is a really good pack. We have Skull Clamp, Balance, Gaia's Cradle. I think all of those are noticeably better than a Windswept Teeth or Preordain, which are probably the next two best cards, but those cards are all really good. Oh, dear. What to draft? I think the best card here is probably Balance. So I'm going to take it. But I also know that other players value this a lot less than I do. Like, it's not completely out of the question to take a Preordain and maybe wheel a Balance, knowing my play group. But Skull Clamp goes in pretty much any creature deck, as long as I'm not a control deck, which is the deck Balance wants to be. Gaia's Cradle goes in also any creature deck that you want to be, I think, pretty committed to green before you're super excited about that. I've already got 3 packs stacked up at me. This is the punishment of tryharding. Okay, well, let's actually take Skull Clamp. It's really close. That's a really close set of choices there. If I'm honest, I think part of my inclination to take Balance is I know the person doing my coaching sessions is particularly good at playing the control matchup, but I think Skull Clamp's the better card. Had we taken Cradle, we could have kind of forced mono green and just taken Hoof, but now we're looking at Bloodstained Mire, Wrath of God, Remand. This is a much worse pack than the pack we opened, so that's a bummer. Dismember. These are all fine. To pair with our Skull Clamp, I'm just going to take a fetch. We're going to stay a little bit open here. A little more open, at least. And we're back to having really good cards in this pack. So, Murktide Regent, 2/3 fetch lands. Thalia. I think Murktide Regent is the best card in this pack. Skull Clamp is probably the card that goes the most with what... I'm sorry. Thalia is probably the card that goes the most with Skull Clamp. Maybe Clarion Spirit, arguably, just because it's also a sort of aggressive white card, but it specifically produces tokens you can then clamp away. I wish I hadn't said I was tryharding. Now I'm feeling the pressure. I think Murktide Regent is the best card in this pack. If this was pack 1, I would take Murktide Regent, and it wouldn't be close. So I'm going to stay open a little bit. The Murktide Regent Skull Clamp deck is not really a thing. All right, so here... Smuggler's Copter, Treasure Cruise, and Sylvan Library, I think, are the only real justifiable options. I think those are all better than Arid Mesa. Probably. And I think I'm just going to take Treasure Cruise. The Devil Spells, I think, are just totally broken. There's a reason they're banned almost everywhere. And people are like, oh, what if you have 2 Devil Spells? Then they're not both cheaper. But the thing is, I think any game where you get to cast 1 cheap Devil Spell, you are so far advantaged that it's okay to have... some other games where you have them both in your hand, because you'd rather have both than none, is I guess the best way of putting it concisely. Another Bloodstained Mire, a Daze. He's back to kind of forgettable cards. So Bloodstained Mire or Daze. We are playing blue cards so far, it looks like. I like Daze in a sort of Skull Clamp deck. We're heavy on blue, and Bloodstained Mire doesn't definitely get blue, so we're kind of, if we take Bloodstained Mire, we're committing to either being blue-red or blue-black. And I do like being blue-red with a Murktide Regent. I'm going to take that, I think. Now we're looking at... Okay, so the Wandering Emperor, it's a pretty late Wandering Emperor. Prismatic Fist I'll play pretty much everywhere. Cryptic Command is obviously great, and we're so far just have blue spells in terms of color commitments. I think Wandering Emperor is good enough here for this to be a reason to play more blue-white. Maybe now, if I wheel that Balance, I will just kind of commit hard to blue-white control, and I will not worry about that pack one, pick one Skull Clamp. Ooh, okay. So Terminus, I think, is the reason to be a blue-white control deck in this cube now. This card is really messed up. People were surprised I added it, I think, because people thought it was very high variance and also just maybe not that good. But the thing is, there's so many ways in this cube to set it up, and if you can set it up and float that Terminus for a while, it's really strong. The next picks I would take are like Wooded Foothills or Windswept Heath. Maybe an Arc Trail, honestly. I think Arc Trail is very good too, but I'm going to take this Terminus. This is the pack we opened? No, we have one more pack for the pack we opened. If we get that balance back, I think we are officially doing it. In terms of this pack, we could end up being a blue-white tempo deck, in which case we don't play this Terminus, but we try and maximize the Skull Clamp, in which case I would want a Thalia, or perhaps a Steegate Stormcaller, or a Selfless Spirit, or a Phyrexian Revoker, but let's try Thalia. Definitely going in a couple different directions right now. Like the blue-white tempo deck is happy to play Treasure Cruise, but not happy to play Murktide Regent. The control deck is not happy to play Skull Clamp or Thalia, but we're staying, I think, a little open. Okay, Balance did not come back. I'm actually glad Balance didn't come back. I think maybe the play group's sensibilities towards it are changing. So somebody else is going to be doing blue or doing white controlling stuff. So these cards are all very speculative right now, I would say. Like, this seems silly, but I'm committing to playing the Murktide Regent and Treasure Cruise and 2 fetch lands. I know it's not much, but I'm committing to it. Almost certainly definitely some subset of these white cards, depending on what else we start getting in these packs. Okay, so like Spellbinder is another good reason to be playing a more aggressive white deck. Like we could just be near mono white at this point with Thalia, Wandering Emperor, Skull Clamp. We don't play Terminus in that deck, but that's okay. Could we be a Golos deck at this point? Because this Verdant Catacombs is about as off-color as a fetch can get for what we've already taken. So it has me thinking maybe Golos could be spicy here. I mean, that would be a real pile. I don't think it's a pretty low-cost speculation. Well, we could end up playing like Esper. If we play Esper, then I want this Verdant Catacombs. Or Bant. I mean, if I get an Uro, I'll play Bant. Yeah, sure. Like, Negate is fine, but I'll take this Overgrown Tomb to speculate on being some other kind of colors. Sure. Is there any reason I'm going to want to tutor up a land with Elvish Reclaimer? No, I don't think I'm playing any of these cards almost ever. Fatal Push is fine. Edge of Autumn. I'm disappointed, but not surprised to see that going around so late. This first pack is kind of rough. For someone that said he was going to try hard this draft, it's not going great. I would say maybe it's going borderline bad. Maybe I'm supposed to have just committed to one thing harder instead of stayed a little bit open. Because like these Elite Spellbinder and Thalia, I mean, these could go in like a tempo-y blue deck. We could end up playing blue-white tempo with the... Oh, we didn't get the Clarion Spirit back, which is like one of the best cards for that archetype. So, not getting the Clarion Spirit back, not getting the balance back. So there's definitely white drafters out there. So mono white is not going to be an option. There's definitely blue drafters out there because a lot of those blue cards didn't come back either. What did come back was green cards, but also we know that the Cradle was taken. All right, well, this pack is fine. I'm looking at Mother of Runes, Condescend, Primordial Mist, and honestly, like a Noble Hierarch or Lotus Cobra, if I do want to maybe splash into green. I have no reason to do that yet, except that I have a couple of green fetch lands. I think... Jeez. I think I'm sad at how this draft is going. I think Mother of Runes is the pickup here, and we try and be more of a tempo deck. Let's see where we end up. I don't feel good. Feeling stressed about my Tryhard draft where people are going to coach me. They're going to be like, what is this awful deck you drafted? Ledger Shredder is good in that deck, but also so is a fetch land. The best card in this pack is Fable the Mirror Breaker. I do have 2 Bloodstained Mires. There's a Blood Crypt right there, which would... So the Polluted Delta would... Oh, man. So what am I giving up for this potential blue-white tempo deck to take a Fable the Mirror Breaker speculatively? I think I'm giving up too much. I think I need to take this Ledger Shredder or this Polluted Delta. If I do end up playing blue-white, I have only 1 fetch land so far. So I probably have to take that over Ledger Shredder. Ugh. The draft goes further off the rails, I think. Okay. Opt, Thoughtseize, Force Spike, Sacred Foundry, Reanimate. All fine. Just fine, not good. I mean, if I had taken the Fable, then I would for sure slam the Sacred Foundry, obviously. But I didn't do that. Unexpectedly Absent is a fine tempo card if I do end up being more of a tempo-y deck. I feel bad. I think we're just going to take this Opt. I mean, it's good with our Delve cards, and if we're going to play them, we gotta optimize them a little bit. So here, Fractured Identity, Adeline, Teferi, Mental Note, Oust. Breeding Pool. Breeding Pool doesn't... I mean, it turns our Verdant Catacombs on if we get a black-white land, but that's not really a thing I'm hoping to do. Fractured Identity can just win games, just kind of cheese them out of nowhere. If I had that balance, I would be all about this Teferi. Like if we ignore, we can basically swap these 4 cards for a Terminus, right? And that's a strategy. And then we only have Skullclamp also comes out with those. So these 5 cards for a Terminus. And then we have exactly 4 playables, and this Fatal Push. Yeah, this is really rough. I think the safest bet here is a Fractured Identity, though if we do end up being the tempo deck, I'm going to rather have Adeline. Oh, boy. Okay. This Teferi is a good pickup, and there's nothing else here for us except for like a 3-bit Inspector, which is pretty replacement level. So maybe exactly the blue-white color combination is actually somewhat open, despite a lot of other things looking bad for us. Okay. I think I just got to take this Irrigated Farmland here. This is a late Wrenn and 6, but we are not in the Wrenn and 6 deck. Emery is cool, but we're also not the Emery deck. We have exactly Skullclamp and nothing else, so I think we're going to take this Irrigated Farmland. And then we get an immediate Hallowed Fountain, plus a Glimmer Lens, Fairy Vandal, Mystic Confluence, Vanishing Verse if we get some fixing for black, which would only be nice to play this Fatal Push, so really not any good reason to prioritize fixing for black, again, except for the fact that I have these 2 Bloodstained Mires. Steam Vents also turns the no, it doesn't. Nope, no, it doesn't. Bloodstained Mire is pretty far. The double Bloodstained Mire pick is looking a little sus right now, too. I would love to pick up a Stoneforge Mystic for this deck because of Skullclamp, which makes Glimmer Lens, I think, a little bit of a higher pick. But I also need to cast my spells, and right now my only fetchable card always enters the battlefield tapped. That said, I'm also short on playables. What is this? I have 16 minus 6. So I have 10 playables right now, and we are halfway through pack 2. It's pretty bad. This makes a... yeah. I'm taking Glimmer Lens. I'm going to do it. Fairy Vandal will also be good for this deck. Here is a Censor. Fine. All right, the Condescend came back around. We'll take that over Dancing Sword, which I think is quite a bit worse than the Glimmer Lens, which we already prioritized. Let's move this up here because this is actually a 2/2 because it's got Mirrodin on it. Oh my goodness. Okay, good. Got the Ledger Shredder back. That is like maybe the first good sign of this entire draft. I like a Force Spike. Do I like it better than Unexpectedly Absent? If I regret not taking that, if I don't see another Hallowed Fountain, I'm going to be very sad. Let's hope that I get to see another Hallowed Fountain because I'm really going to want an untapped land to fetch with my fetch lands. Which, again, right now I only have 2 fetch lands because my Bloodstained Mires and Verdant Catacombs do not help. Pretty rough draft, honestly. Pretty rough draft so far. Okay, Teferi? I mean, maybe. Right now we have not a ton of card draw. We have Opt. So, I mean, Skullclamp is card draw. Skullclamp Teferi, is that the combo? Something tells me it's not what you're really supposed to do, but we could get there maybe. Watch me regret not taking that Breeding Pool if I get an Uro next pack. I guess maybe I end up playing Ulcerate because I'm not going to play a Stomping Ground, unless something goes really weird. Oh, woe is me. So, I mean, if I give you a little more serious here, I would love to pick up a really good reason to play black. Which, what would that look like at this point? What would be a really good reason to play black? Like, I don't even know. Yeah, I think this is going to be an Emery riding the sideboard kind of draft, which is a lot of drafts. Okay, Fairy Vandal last pick is not terrible either. So we have Teferi, Fairy Vandal. Ledger Shredder works with Fairy Vandal and Teferi in a cool way. So maybe we do have a cool little tempo deck brewing here. This is definitely not a typical archetype in this cube. So I'm feeling a little uptight. Here we're looking at Portable Hole. We have like no removal right now, right? We have just some counter spells and bounce spells and a Fracture Identity. Scalding Tarn, Sarah Paragon, Portable Hole, Vendilion Click. I think this is a really good Vendilion Click deck. This is exactly where I want Vendilion Click. But I honestly, so how many playable spells am I at? 20 minus 3, so I'm at, okay, I am at 17 spells right now. I think I'm going to prioritize this. I would very happily play Click, Cave of the Frost Dragon, Sarah Paragon, Portable Hole. So hoping one of those comes back around. Surely one of those will come back around. I'd really like the Click to come back. That would be the one I would most want. But we'll see. It's a pretty bad Murktide Region deck right now. 1, 2, 3, 4 spells. So good cantrips are also welcome. This pack, so there's my Watery Grave. But again, I can't think of a reason to play black other than just wanting to make my fetch lands that I drafted highly function. I could splash a little black off this Prismatic Ending, which is what I'm actually going to take here. I could take either Spellbomb with Emery. I already have Skull Clamp. That's not really enough things for me to be excited about it. And Prismatic Ending, I think, is a very high-value spell. So I'm taking the Ending. Here. Timeless Dragon, Misty Rainforest, Shelldock Isle. Or I guess Hopeful Initiate based on how this has been going. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spells with our Murktide Regent. Really would love to get some more cantrips to make this deck function a little better. Honestly, Baleful Strix might be one of the biggest reasons to play black, but I'm not going to prioritize it right now. Timeless Dragon is exactly the kind of just like generic good stuff card I think this deck probably needs because it's not super functional right now. I'm going to take a Hallowed Fountain over anything. So I think I'm going to take this over that fetch land. Hey, look, it's my deck in a pack. Jesus. Oh, my God. What? Yikes. Okay, so Sleight of Hand, Shark Typhoon, Annoyed Peacekeeper, Brazen Borrower, Soul Partition, Mercurial Spelldancer. I would consider main decking all but 2 cards in this whole pack. I think the pick has probably got to be Brazen Borrower. It does both the things our deck wants. It's, well, I guess it's not a spell for Murktide Region specifically, but it's a little tempo play. It's a small creature that can be skull clamped. And whatever we wheel, we're going to be happy. So I'm going to take that. I'm starting to be very concerned we're not going to get the Hallowed Fountain we so desire. Flicker Wisp, Force of Negation, Spell Queller are all fine. Murktide Region and Skull Clamp really pull in different directions, huh? Turns out. Oy, oy, oy. What do I have to blink with Flicker Wisp? I mean, I guess you could blink Glimmerlens if the creature dies. Got a new 2/2. It's kind of cool. Blink Elite Spellbinder, tax something else. Blink a Planeswalker to reset its loyalty. That's pretty much the only things. Spell Queller is good if I can protect it or if my opponent is basically almost dead. But otherwise, it can be kind of high risk, high reward. Force of Negation, I think, is probably the safest pick. I'm just going to take that. I want to make this Murktide Region a little better. There's the Stoneforge Mystic. Okay. I feel like that's something. I would love this Miscalculation too, or this Lose Focus. We're not going to get either back. The last card in this pack is going to be like Collected Company and Offenza probably, because those 2 cards belong in the same deck and people might not like it. Memory Lapse or Elspeth. I've already got 3 planeswalkers and a pretty heavy curve. So I think it might just be the memory lapse here. Or rather, if it is Elspeth, I'm bummed. I don't want the right answer to be Elspeth. I want this to be a cube where you take memory lapse here instead of Elspeth. And I'm not sure it is. And this is the curse of being the cube designer. Because if this was someone else's cube, I kind of get the impression I might just slam Elspeth. Okay, if I do take Elspeth, am I actually getting to the place where I can be more of a controlling deck and actually play this Terminus? I have no way to set it up except for Condescend. Condescend, I guess, is the only way to set it up. That's not great. I'm going to take this. I have too little interaction right now. Whew. See, I feel like the packs just broke badly for us here because, again, Mana Leak, Hallowed Fountain, Archmage's Charm, Consider. I think I have to take the Hallowed Fountain here. I'm at 27 minus 5, so this is 22 playables. I'm not thrilled about all these playables. I would happily put some of them aside, but I think I need untapped fetches for, or untapped fetchables, rather, for my 3 fetch lands and 1 more dual land to make my mana base function. Yikes. All right, well, we got Portable Hull back. We like Portable Hull. We want more cheap interaction instead of 4 mana threats. Oh, dear. How bad of a... I mean, this is going to be a classic, like, fair Skull Clamp deck. Okay, very happy to get this Skyclave Apparition back. That's a good card for us. We got a Misty Rainforest back. I'm never going to kick Misty Rainforest out of bed at this point. And then we knew we were going to get something out of this pack because we were essentially guaranteed to. I am not a control deck, even though I have access to this Supreme Verdict and this Terminus, and I have 1, 2, 3 Planeswalkers. I could have had 4 if I took Elspeth, but I don't want to wrath away stuff like Skyclave Apparition or all these creatures. This is like it's a tempo-y mid-range deck. Spelldancer. What can I reasonably copy that's any good here? Opt or Prismatic Ending? Well, I mean, the cards that I'm least appealing out of this pack wield for sure. It's not like this deck. I like Emeria's Call a lot in like hard control decks that just want like another win condition. And this deck is not wanting for win conditions. You know, you can at least Skull Clamp Spelldancer. So I guess it's Spelldancer. Flicker Wisp, fine. We got the Miscalculation back. We'd love to see that. And a Vendetta. Okay. I am honestly kind of sad. I tried so hard, but this draft was pretty off the rails. This is not what you love to see. All right, let's build this deck, though. Let's put you down here. Make our curve look a little less heinous. This is also going to be down here, realistically. So we have 3 cards above 3 mana value, which is kind of where I want things to be. So, what cards are just bad here? We're at 34 cards minus 6 lands, so we're at 28 playables. And this is a 16 land deck, I think. Maybe, honestly, even 17. I have 1 cantrip and some cyclers. Yeah, we have like 2 halves of different decks here. We have cards like Murktide Regent and Treasure Cruise. Where'd my Treasure Cruise go? What? Where's Treasure Cruise? Excuse me? Am I losing my mind? What? Where'd Treasure Cruise go? $34 cards plus 11 in the sideboard is 45. I did take Treasure Cruise. Am I losing my mind right now? Okay, let's be very methodical. Force of Negation. These are all lands. Mother of Runes, Portable Hull, Skull Clamp, Condescend, Force Spike, Prismatic Ending. Mystic, Glimmerlens, Shredder, Vandal, Regent, Spelldancer, Censor, Lapse, Miscalc, Borrower, Dragon, Teferi, all white cards. Where is Treasure Cruise? Okay, we had to come over and build our deck here because for some reason the other... Oh, that's my deck. It's the sideboard up there. For some reason, the other interface was not working for us, and it flipped everything here completely. So these all go in the sideboard, and the other cards all go in the main deck. Yeah, for some reason, the UI on MTGA Draft was just breaking for me. Force Spike, Opt, Sensor, Fairy Vandal, Literature, Memory Last, Mercury's Bonus, Calculation, Brazen Power, Navigation. We'll put them all in again, and let's just think one more time. Sort by mana value, separate non-creatures. Okay. Better spot. Let's move these things back around again. You're going to go here. You're going to go here. You're going to go down here as well. You're going to go up here. Treasure Cruise. I put Treasure Cruise as the most optimistic spot on my curve. I did end up with, what, 4 fetch lands, which is fine. A little above average, and 2 fetchables, so I think the mana base is okay. Okay, back to talking about things. I think Spell Dancer is probably a cut. Pretty safe cut. Condescend is a 2-drop. Get that in here. Prismatic Ending, probably also a 2-drop realistically. So let's get all these 2-drops in here. Too many 2-drops is what I say. A lot of things to do on 2. Not a lot to do on 1, which I don't like. All right, back to where we were. 33 deck, 33 cards with 6 lands. So we need 3 more cuts. Again, I think we cut Fractured Identity, and I was in the middle of saying why I think that's... Some people are going to think that's crazy, but I think it's actually fine here. It's a sideboard card. We'll bring it in sometimes, we won't bring it in all the time. The 3-drops were a little heavy on 3s. Force of Negation is sometimes going to cost nothing, so the cost of running it is not that bad. Maybe we don't run Censor and Force Spike, and I think we're not a committed enough aggressive deck to take advantage of Force Spike. So that'll maybe be a sideboard card on the play. I mean, one more cut? I think this is an okay distribution of threats and answers. Let me actually just kind of do this. I tend to do this sometimes. Like, these Planeswalkers are basically threats. So I put them up there. Timeless Dragon and Brazen Bar are doing double duty here as some smoothing and interaction plus threats. 31 minus 6. I definitely don't think this is a 15 land deck. I think it's probably a 16 land deck, so given that we cut one of the 5 drops. So we need one more cut. I think we have to lean into the potential ceiling of synergies like Fairy Vandal and Ledger Shredder put together. So we're really looking at just like the sort of barest bones, most good stuff cards right now are like Thalia, Flicker Wisp. They're not doing a ton for us. Thalia blocks better and can punish a greedier opponent. Flicker Wisp has a lot of edge utility, but is not doing anything especially broken here, and is also harder to cast. I think Flicker Wisp is going to get the cut for being harder to cast. And that brings us to a 16 land deck, and we have 6 white-blue sources, so we're looking at 11-11 if we split it down the middle, which I think is about right. Add basic lands. Okay. I mean, this will be an interesting deck to play because, I don't think it is my best, to say the least. I think the deck is kind of unfocused. Put this back over here. But it does have a lot of decision space. I'm going to be presented with tough turns, I think, and so it's probably a good opportunity to learn how to get better, which is exactly what I plan to be doing in the coaching sessions. That's the deck. We're going to see what we can do. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for tuning in. The video of the coaching sessions I play with this deck, those are going to be kind of hard to produce, a little more work than usual, so do please check them out. working pretty hard on it. It's going to be paper gameplay that I'm going to be replaying with Brian Koval of Bosch and Roll, and we're going to be talking about how to be a better cube player, because I don't think I'm a particularly good player. I was telling Brian I think I'm a better drafter than I am a player, and then I'm going to bring this abomination of a deck to him, so that doesn't look so good for me, but we can do okay here. The deck is not super focused, but the card quality is okay, the curve is okay, and it does have a strategy, right? Like put on some pressure with these white creatures and back it up with some blue interaction. So I think we can get there. It's going to be a little more work than usual, maybe, and maybe the lines are going to be a little bit less clear, which would be more fun. Anyway, the whole point is tune into the video, check it out. I gotta go.